The love story of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce is set to get underway tonight.
For nearly 3 years, fans watched Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's romance play out in real time, from stadium suites to Super Bowl kisses to a proposal caption that broke the internet. Then, on the night before America's biggest summer holiday, they finally got married. Millions saw the pink lights, the designer gowns, and the parade of A-listers. But once you dig into what actually happened behind those blacked-out windows at Madison Square Garden, the story gets a lot stranger, a lot more emotional, and a lot messier than the highlight reel let on. For almost a year, tabloids had guessed at nearly every possible wedding date, city, and venue for this couple, and almost none of it was right. On Friday, July 3rd, 2026, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce were married at Madison Square Garden in New York City, a venue with real history for Swift, who played her first MSG show back in 2009 and later celebrated her 30th birthday there. The arena had been transformed for the occasion, with crews hauling in truckload after truckload of unmarked equipment for days beforehand, while celebrity event planners compared the build-up to producing a Broadway show on a deadline. Streets around the garden were closed off, barricades kept fans and photographers back, and roughly 135 NYPD officers were stationed around the venue on the night itself. Guests arrived Friday in blacked-out SUVs, funneled through security so tight that almost nothing leaked from inside until the ceremony was already over. When it was finally official, giant screens around the outside of Madison Square Garden lit up in purple with the words, "Justin T. Married," and the Empire State Building lit up in blue in a nod to the old wedding rhyme about something borrowed and something blue. Then, almost on cue, a rainstorm rolled in over Midtown Manhattan. Swift's team confirmed the marriage through a press release timed almost exactly with those billboard messages, which is how most of the world, including plenty of the fans who'd been camped outside for hours, found out that it had actually happened. Roughly 1,000 guests were inside to witness it, and for a crowd that size, almost nothing about the ceremony itself made it out before Swift's team was ready to share it. On paper, having Adam Sandler officiate a wedding this massive sounds like a punchline. In practice, it tracked with everything people already knew about how close Sandler had grown to this couple. Sandler and Kelce bonded while filming Happy Gilmore 2, in which Kelce landed a cameo, and Sandler has spoken warmly about Kelce in interviews since, describing him as easygoing, funny, and reminiscent of the guys he grew up with. His connection to Swift runs through his daughters, Sadie and Sunny, who are longtime fans. The family met Swift after seeing the Eras Tour concert filmed together in 2023. According to Good Morning America anchor George Stephanopoulos, who attended the ceremony with his co-anchors Robin Roberts and Michael Strahan, the vows themselves struck a real emotional chord, mixing humor with sincerity in a way that matched both Sandler's personality and the couple's. Swift's own aunt, Robin Gentry, later told reporters that there was plenty of crying, laughing, dancing, and hugging once the vows were done. For a decade, Swift built one of the most famous friend groups in pop culture, the so-called Squad, packed with models, actresses, and musicians. So naturally, the internet spent months speculating over which famous names would land bridesmaid duty. The answer, when it came, surprised almost everyone. There was no traditional bridal party at all. According to a statement from Swift's representative, her younger brother Austin served as her man of honor, while Kelce's older brother and New Heights podcast co-host Jason Kelce stood in as his best man, a structure her team said was meant to join both families together. It's worth sitting with that choice for a second. Swift could have handed those roles to any number of famous friends, and instead she handed them to family, and specifically to the brother, who has been deeply involved in her career for years, including help navigating the fight over her master recordings. For Travis, tapping Jason wasn't just sentimental either, it was a callback. Travis had already stood as Jason's best man when Jason married his own wife, Kylie, back in 2018. This time, the favor ran the other direction. If there was one detail the internet had been obsessing over for months, it was what Swift would actually wear. The answer came from Paris. Both the bride and groom wore custom pieces from Christian Dior haute couture, designed by the house's creative director, Jonathan Anderson, a designer known for playful, elaborate silhouettes. Swift's shoes were custom Christian Louboutin, and she wore Cartier jewelry alongside the couture gown. Her engagement ring had its own quieter story. Kelce proposed with an antique-style, old mine-cut diamond, designed with Kindred Lubeck of Artifacts Fine Jewelry in New York, a hand-engraving specialist known for vintage-inspired work. It's a detail that stands in deliberate contrast to the size and spectacle of everything else surrounding this wedding. Instead of picking something flashy and modern, Kelce chose a stone built to look like it had already lived a century. For a bride whose entire career has been built on turning her own history into art, the arrivals alone read like a highlight reel of the last decade of pop culture. Selena Gomez, Gigi Hadid, Bradley Cooper, Zoe Kravitz, Emma Stone, Brad Pitt, Jennifer Lopez, Steven Spielberg, Paul McCartney, and Jessica Alba were all spotted heading in or leaving the venue. Hugh Grant arrived with his wife. Comedian Chris Rock made an appearance, and longtime Swift collaborators Jack Antonoff and Lena Dunham were both there. The sports world showed up in force too, with Tom Brady, Chiefs head coach Andy Reid, quarterback Matthew Stafford and his wife Kelly, and tight end George Kittle among the athletes photographed at the Garden. Reports also placed Stevie Nicks and Paul McCartney providing musical entertainment for the celebration, a lineup that tracks with Swift's own well-documented reverence for both artists. Not everyone made the cut, and the absences ended up generating almost as much conversation as the guest list itself. Harry Styles, Swift's former partner, wasn't in New York at all, since he was performing in London that same night. Far more talked about was the missing pair almost everyone had been watching for, Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds. Lively, once one of Swift's closest friends and godmother adjacent to her circle in the other direction, since Swift is godmother to the couple's children, skipped both the rehearsal dinner and the wedding itself. Instead, she and Reynolds were photographed at a horse show in Lake Placid, New York, roughly 300 miles away. The same weekend, the rift traces back to Lively's legal battle with her It Ends With Us co-star and director Justin Baldoni, a case that pulled Swift's name in as well after private messages between Swift and Lively were unsealed as part of the proceedings. Sources close to the situation told outlets like Page Six and People that Swift now wants to be surrounded by people who bring her peace, and that she considers the friendship over, though neither woman has addressed it publicly. Running a wedding this size through the middle of Manhattan required treating it almost like a security operation. Permits reportedly closed off streets around Madison Square Garden for days, and city officials, including the NYPD commissioner, ended up publicly referencing the plans before Swift and Kelce's teams were ready to confirm anything. Making it harder, a brutal heat wave hit New York the same week, with the National Weather Service warning that the heat index could climb into dangerous territory. Luxury wedding planners speaking to outlets afterward estimated the full cost of the celebration somewhere between $10 million and $20 million, with security representing a major share of that figure. The night before the main event, around 100 close friends and family gathered at the Garden for a rehearsal dinner. Guests spotted that night included Selena Gomez, Lena Dunham, Jack Antonoff, and broadcasters Erin Andrews and Carissa Thompson. Swift has been open for years about her fascination with numerology and meaningful dates, so fans immediately assumed the wedding date carried significance, and they weren't wrong to look. July 3rd falls at the start of 4th of July weekend, a holiday that's become a personal tradition for Swift, who has hosted friends at her Rhode Island home for Independence Day gatherings for years. The date also landed squarely in Kelce's NFL offseason, giving him time to recover before training camp began later in July. According to Page Six, the couple had originally been eyeing a different venue entirely, a Rhode Island hotel near Swift's home, before ultimately settling on Madison Square Garden instead. Amid all the couture and the celebrity math, one detail stood out to guests as genuinely telling. George Kittle revealed that Swift and Kelce had asked guests not to bring gifts at all, since, as he put it, they already had each other and didn't need anything else. It's a small note, but it lines up with everything else about how this wedding actually played out once you strip away the noise. A couple that could have turned this into the biggest spectacle in celebrity history instead built the ceremony itself around two brothers standing in for a bridal party, a ring designed to look like an heirloom, and a guest list that, for all its star power, was really just an attempt to get the people they trust most in one room. For all the security perimeters, the nine-figure buzz, and the running tally of who got invited and who didn't. The most surprising thing about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding might be how ordinary the choices underneath it all actually were. Family over fame, and a night they mostly kept for themselves.